Today, we'll continue our study of the Discourse on the Simile of the snake. Last time, we talked about how anything that's impermanent is suffering, right? We all know that life is suffering. But what kind of suffering? Today, we'll learn about another element of suffering. Impermanence is suffering. This is a new concept, a bit more philosophical. The original suffering we discussed last. Time was more about feelings. We have painful feelings, pleasant feelings, and neutral feelings, neither painful nor pleasant. So what exactly is the suffering of feeling? Who can truly know? The truth is, we can't use words to describe the state of our heart. For example, if someone has never been through a certain emotional state, they won't understand what the feeling of suffering is. Let's say one time, someone spoke ill of you, and your mind hadn't learned to overcome it yet. You felt sad, and your face just drooped. Then, someone who has never known sadness comes up and asks, "What's wrong with your face?" You say, "I'm sad." And they ask, "What is sad?" They just don't get it. But if you tell someone who has been through that same pain, "I'm sad," they immediately understand. This is like the saying, "The hot and cold of water is known by the one who drinks it." Similarly, the states of mind we have experienced are things we can only know for ourselves. Robot-controlled apocalypse. In the movie, it said that by the year 2000, the world would be ruled by robots because in the 1980s, people created these incredibly special electronic chips that made the robots smarter than humans. By the year 2000, the whole world was under their control. So, a human resistance force fought back against them. The robots hunted down and eliminated every human. The movie had this concept of time. If an event A happened in 1983, it would lead to event B in the year 2000. So the robot reasoned, if we want to prevent event B, we must destroy event A. That sounds logical, right? It makes perfect sense. And in the movie, while robots were taking over the world and humans were desperately fighting back, a baby was born in the 80s who was destined to become the brilliant leader of the human resistance in the year 2000. Knowing this, the robots went back in time to 1983 to find and kill the child. 2 robots were sent back to that year, one to protect the baby and the other to destroy it. The protecting robot's technology was quite ordinary, more mechanical. The destructive robot, however, was incredibly advanced, a liquid metal, being that could take any form. For example, if it wanted to go through a house, it would melt into liquid, slip through a hole, then reform itself as a person. Every single liquid molecule of that robot was intelligent. After a series of grueling battles, the protecting robot was in a lot of pain. The baby cried, and it was a very touching scene. The robot was confused, unable to understand why the baby was crying. This programming had no concept of sadness. Then, at the very end, after defeating the destructive robot, the protecting robot said, "I must self-destruct." When asked why, it said, "Because I still have a chip from that advanced technology. If this chip remains, who knows, one day someone might use it to create more robots and endanger the world. So I must self-destruct." With that, it stepped into a boiling pot of molten metal, melting itself completely until the chip was destroyed. It was a very dramatic scene, and in that moment, as it was melting away, it said, "Now I know why you cry." At that very moment, it finally understood the profound sadness humans feel when they say goodbye. That's a powerful story. So here, the emotional state is ordinary people. A Western philosopher once said, "Whatever you consider happiness, when you lose it, you will suffer." Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? This resonates deeply with what the Buddha taught. For example, you have a beautiful pen you really love. As soon as you develop that attachment, you're setting yourself up for future sadness. Because when you possess, it brings you joy, but the day it gets lost or rusty, you will be sad. The same goes for a close friend. You share so much joy together, but when that person gets sick and passes away, you will suffer. Impermanence is suffering. This is a beautiful point. Many people might argue, life is suffering, but there are happy moments too. And with this teaching, we can respond. But can we ever hold on to that happiness forever? The answer is definitely no. And when the happiness we cling to inevitably ceases, suffering will come. This is the perfect response for those who have yet to see the true nature of suffering in life. Last Sunday, I was giving a talk at a retreat. At the end, there were two lay people, one who had no legs and one who was blind. They sang some songs as an offering at the end of the year. The blind musician had composed a song called In Debt. I smiled when I heard it. It's a lovely song. It goes, I owe autumn a poem of falling leaves and mist. What does that mean? It means that countless poets have written beautiful poems about autumn's leaves and mist. We enjoy those wonderful poems thanks to the season of autumn. So the musician feels indebted to autumn because it gave him the inspiration for the songs he loves to listen to. I owe autumn a poem of falling leaves and mist. I owe someone a whole life I can't repay, a smile with dimples. Have you ever seen one? I owe my homeland a bunch of sweet star fruit. I owe life a moment of bitterness. I owe the rain a moment of getting wet. I owe the village sky a flying kite. Absolutely wonderful. I owe my mother's lullaby by the old hammock. I owe my friends a final get-together at the street corner. I owe my old school the first letters I wrote. A whole life is forever engraved deep. What this means is that everything we enjoy in life feels like a debt. But among those beautiful, pleasant debts, there's only one that says, I owe life a moment of bitterness. This is so strange, isn't it? A blind musician who has never heard of Buddhism can speak so beautifully about everything, but when he talks about life, he says it's full of bitterness and suffering. It seems that deep in a person's soul, even if they don't know the Dharma, they still feel that life is suffering. This person never studied the Dharma, but deep down, after going through life, they understand that life is suffering, not happiness. Yet, even in that suffering, they still find something interesting, which is why they call it a debt. I owe life a moment of bitterness. This is a shared viewpoint, a common ground for all human beings. Life is suffering, not good at all. I became a monk, and that's a good thing. Here, what is impermanent is suffering. What is impermanent and subject to decay? Is it reasonable to think, that is mine, that is me, that is myself? The Buddha said no. It is impermanent, so don't cling to it. Now let's talk about form. Form is impermanent. So don't say, form is me, it is mine, it is myself. What is form? Form is this physical body, this physical form. This body and form are called form. So we must see that this form is impermanent. So we don't see it as ours or mine. And it's the same with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. We must see that they are impermanent. And since impermanence is suffering, we must never consider them as me or mine. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? It's a bit difficult to fully grasp, but this is extremely important. This is the very essence of the entire Buddhist path. You will hear it repeated over and over again in the Nikayas. Form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness are impermanent. Therefore, they are not me, they are not mine. If it weren't important, the Buddha wouldn't have repeated it so many times. And because it's so important, we must understand and practice it thoroughly. Only when we understand and practice this can we feel gratitude to the Buddha and see how wonderful and beneficial the Dharma is. For example, perception. We understand it as thinking, fanciful thoughts, the images and sounds that appear in our mind. If we practice, we can eventually let go of these thoughts and enter samadhi. But then there are mental formations, the subtle mind, decisions, reasoning, creativity, memories, attention, and emotions. There's a lot in mental formations, and it's hard to put into. If we study the early Nikaya scriptures, the Buddha told us to overcome this. When we practice, we contemplate form. We let go of this body. We know it is impermanent, subject to decay, and will be buried. That's easy to see. As for feelings, when we are sad or happy, we practice for a while and we see, that's right. We overcome it so that our mind is not shaken. Then, as for fanciful thoughts, we can see and let go of them. Until the subtle minds deep inside can be overcome, then only the vast, wondrous knowing remains. At this stage, we usually cannot let it go. But if today you have studied the Nikayas and you understand, then one day when you attain this samadhi, please remember what we have learned today from the Buddha. Do not cling. Even if you cannot overcome it yet. And when you do not cling, it means that one day you will overcome it, and you will attain arhatship. Next time, we will study the Discourse on the contemplation of the body, where we will talk about how the breath is part of the perception, mental formations, and consciousness aggregates, and you will understand more clearly. But that discourse must be practiced. We must practice to understand. This discourse is also about practice, but it's more about practice through thinking and contemplation. You must try to understand these 5 concepts thoroughly, especially starting with the form aggregate. Contemplate it thoroughly so that you do not see it as you or yours, because that is the starting point to go deep into the Dharma. The clinging to this body is incredibly powerful. When we are just sitting here, we hear the Buddha say that this body is impermanent and illusory, and we believe it. But when we face a situation, we realize we cannot let go of that clinging. In the next section, we will see that, therefore, O monks, whatever form, past, future, or present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all should be regarded in this way. This is not mine. This is not me. This is not myself. The Buddha instructed us so carefully. If we just skim over this part of the sutra, we will find reading the Nikayas boring and hard to understand. The reason the Nikayas are so profound is because a great idea is condensed into a short sentence. Whatever form, past, future, or present. What does that mean? When you read the Nikayas, you can't just skim over these parts. You have to truly understand them. What is past form? It's the body from your childhood or past lives. Sometimes we are living in our current body in the year 2000, but we are still clinging to the body from our childhood. Does that sound illogical? It does, but I've experienced it, so I know how profound the Buddha's words are. One time I heard 2 lay people talking. One was asking the other what I looked like, and the other person said, "Oh, he's a bit scrawny." I was a little sad and I said, "Well, I was very handsome as a child. My uncles used to call me Alain Delon. Don't be too hard on me now." That's clinging to the form of the past. As for the present, that's already the case, right? What about future form? It's the body of the future, a fantasy. It's clinging to the body of the future. What about internal or external form? External is the physical appearance like this, while internal is the organs inside our body. This clinging is terrible. We don't see our heart, liver, spleen, and lungs, but there is still an invisible link between our nature and our body, between the body and the mind, that makes us cling to it unconsciously. For example, there's a story in America. A girl was sick with a heart condition and needed a heart transplant. A young man died in a car accident and had signed a donor card. The hospital got his heart and transplanted it into the girl. She survived, but she said that from then on, she always felt a spirit beside her. Her personality gradually changed. She started drinking beer, driving recklessly, and eating fried chicken, things she had never done before. Later, she found the young man's family, and it turned out that's exactly what he was like. He loved beer, reckless driving, and fried chicken, which is how he died. So you see, even though he was dead and his heart was given to someone else, there was still an invisible clinging that bound him, making him hover around the girl. Similarly, when a person dies and is buried, the body decays, leaving only a skeleton. Even when there's nothing left but a skeleton, it still pulls that person's mind back. The spirit hovers around the grave. It doesn't want to go anywhere else. It always comes back to the grave because its body is there, like its home. This is an invisible clinging that we cannot resist. Don't say, "I practice and I can let go of it." No, you still cannot. Resist such a strange power. Sometimes, even when a person is cremated and there is only a little bit of ash left in a jar, wherever that jar is taken, the soul also follows. It's like that. So, when you see those jars of ashes, don't think you are safe from ghosts. They are still there somewhere. Don't mess with them. What about gross or subtle, inferior or superior? Gross is our overall appearance, like our height or weight. Subtle is the small details, like a dimple when we smile or a crooked tooth. These tiny details in our physical appearance also make us cling. Inferior means our flaws, and superior means our strengths. For example, we have beautiful hands and we keep waving them around when we talk. That's a strength. If we have a bad habit, we try to hide it. Inferior or superior is like that. Far or near, these are the small details that we must understand when we read. Similarly, we must apply this to feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. We must overcome all the small details of thoughts and feelings and not cling to them. Here we hear this passage, "O monks, a well-taught noble disciple becomes disenchanted with form, disenchanted with feeling, with perception, with mental formations, with consciousness. Because of disenchantment, he is dispassionate. Because of dispassion, he is liberated." The YMLY sounds good in its original form, but a literal translation can sound a bit awkward. So we have to find a way to interpret the scriptures so that it's correct and natural in our language. We must understand it as a noble disciple who has studied and practiced a lot, and who therefore does not cling to this physical form. The word disenchantment means not clinging. This is a simple word, but it contains the very heart and beginning of all practice. You must try to practice this. Of the 5 aggregates, the gateway to enter is the form aggregate. Every day, we will study the Discourse on the contemplation of the body. The Buddha taught how to destroy the clinging to the body alone, and that was enough to make people attain the path. So form is very important. The act of destroying the clinging to this physical form is profound. If you just read this word, disenchantment, and then move on, you will never see its true depth. Why? Because you haven't practiced it every hour, every minute. You haven't contemplated it enough to make that feeling of disenchantment arise in your heart. You hear it, you understand it, and then you let it go and go back to chasing food, clothes, and money. In your heart, you will never feel disenchantment. You will continue to cling to this physical form, be attached to it, and be carried away in the cycle of samsara. And because of that, you will not find the Nikayas to be so wonderful. We must remember the grace of the Buddha and all the predecessors who have preserved the Dharma for us. We must remember the grace of our teachers who have painstakingly taught us. We must truly be disenchanted with this form. We must practice it in our hearts every hour, every minute. Whether walking, standing, lying down, or sitting, we must think that this body is illusory so that we can be disenchanted with it. So this word is not just for theoretical understanding. We must practice it every hour, every minute to see the value of the scriptures and repay the grace of the Buddha and our predecessors. It is also our responsibility to those who come after us. Later, when you become teachers, lecturers, and abbots, you will have a responsibility to so many people who come after you. At that time, you will also teach these same discourses and encounter this word, disenchantment. But if you don't practice it from now on, you will speak those 2 words to others in a dry, boring, and superficial way. And so, the Dharma will be passed on from one generation to the next by people who only hear and then repeat it. But if, from today, you hear the words disenchantment and you practice diligently, whether eating, sleeping, speaking, or being silent, walking, or standing, you try to see that this body is illusory. Then after 10, 20 years, when you have disciples, you will tell them, "You must be disenchanted with form." That sentence will carry the power of 20 years of practice and cultivation, and your disciples will be able to be disenchanted with form. You will be conveying your entire inner strength with that sentence, not just saying it superficially. When you say, "You must not cling to this body, it is impermanent and illusory," that sentence will no longer be a dry, meaningless, superficial statement. It will carry the whole heart and the power of decades of your practice, and your disciples will continue to practice like that. And so, the Dharma will be passed on from one generation to the next, flourishing because of those who truly practice the Buddha's teachings. But if today we just read through this discourse and understand the meaning and then let it go without practicing, you will not practice and your disciples will not practice either. And the Dharma will be passed on by people who only learn and understand, never practice. it will surely decline and no longer be a refuge for sentient beings. So we must think about the long-term existence of the Dharma and the benefit for all people in this world. Today, when we learn this simple word, disenchantment, we must practice it thoroughly and firmly to pass that inner strength to the generations to come. Start by being disenchanted with form first. Constantly contemplate that this body is illusory, and don't just learn and then let it go. I say this to you with all my heart, all my emotion, and my determination, hoping that you will practice so that the Dharma can continue to exist. Because monks are practitioners, not just students. Now, it's easy for us to become students just learning from one school to another, getting one degree after another, but not getting any practice time. But we are monks, we are practitioners. We learn to practice, not just to understand and then pass on the understanding forever. So here, in this discourse and in the entire Dharma, if we don't practice, we won't see its profoundness. We won't see its profoundness, just like seeing that form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness are impermanent. When we say this simple sentence, we will never understand the teachings with a deep sense of gratitude to the Buddha. Why? Because we have never practiced it. Only when you reach the state of just having consciousness left, when you enter samadhi and only the passive, vast knowing remains, and you don't even cling to that knowing, will you see the profoundness of the Buddha's words. You will see that each aggregate is seen as impermanent to be let go of. You have to meditate diligently for 10 years or more to see this point. The Dharma talks about it over and over again. It's just about these 5 aggregates, seeing them as impermanent and not seeing any aggregate as a self. This is incredibly wonderful and profound, and if we just read it quickly, we won't understand it. It is not me. You will let it go completely. Even though you have not yet overcome the consciousness aggregate to attain the absolute nature, you are on the right path. It takes 10 years of diligent practice. At that time, you will see the grace of the Buddha and the wisdom of the Buddha that left us the light, but we did not light it up. We did not continue it. What a great pity. We must practice it no matter what. In this, because of disenchantment, he is dispassionate. Because of dispassion, he is liberated. The Buddha's formula is concise, and the word dispassionate means to get rid of craving and be liberated. This word is concise and difficult to understand. Just getting rid of craving is liberation. The word craving has a big meaning, from very shallow to very deep. Only then does it make sense to say that getting rid of craving is liberation. Normally, it's not that easy. Craving has its shallow and deep aspects. For example, shallow craving is the craving for food. That's easy to understand, isn't it? You are all good at that, aren't you? But there are other cravings that are more subtle. For example, when someone comes and praises you, I see that the teacher has so much virtue. The teacher practices so diligently. You feel happy. That happiness is already a form of craving. Or a person who enters samadhi and the mind is pure. They like it so much, they like to dwell in it, they like to keep it, they cling to it. That is also a subtle craving. Can be a form of sensual craving or formless craving. There are many subtle things. Praise is often subtle and hard to let go of. For example, when people scold us, it's easy to let go. But when they praise us, it's hard to let go. People say bad things about us. We can be patient. It's easy for practitioners to control their mind and stay calm in unfavorable situations. But when people praise us, we can't let go of it. We keep thinking about it for 3 days and can live without food. So you must get rid of the very subtle craving to be called liberated by the Buddha. In this, there is this sentence. In liberation, there arises the wisdom of knowing that one is liberated. This sentence is important. One time, I met a person who announced that he had attained liberation and his mind was pure. Some other teachers questioned him. If you say so, it means that you practice and you have attainment. That's not the Buddhist path. The Buddhist path is no attainment, no realization. This teacher who criticized was actually wrong. We don't know if the other person was truly completely attained, but the teacher who said that was wrong. You must know what your mind is like. You can't not know. Yesterday, we still had thoughts. Today, we don't have thoughts anymore. We must know, right? So, when we practice, we always check and know very clearly what states our mind has changed. We know it all, but there is only one difference. This knowing is not wrong. When your mind is agitated, you know it's agitated. When it's calm, you know it's calm. That's not wrong. Only this is wrong. When the mind is pure, you know it's pure, but you have a sense of pride because of that purity. The ancients called this having a mind of attainment. This is wrong. If you have this mind, later you will gradually fall back. But new practitioners often experience this. For example, you have never had samadhi before. You practice for a while and you attain samadhi. You know you have attained samadhi, and pride arises. After a while, you lose your merit and the samadhi is lost. If you are too proud, you can become crazy. It's dangerous. But normally, you must know. You cannot not know. And those who say that practice is no attainment, no realization, are only speaking in theory. They don't understand. This person has not practiced. You know very clearly, but you are not proud. Because that is wisdom. This story is related to a historical event in Buddhism. In the past, there was a monk named Mahadeva who announced that he had attained arhatship. Many people followed him. He had a disciple who discovered his teacher still had many mistakes. One time, he asked, "Why do you say you have attained arhatship, but you still have so many mistakes?" The teacher said, "Well, an arhat can still have mistakes." Then, he also pointed to his disciple and said that he had also attained arhatship. The disciple was surprised. "I have? How do I not know? An arhat attains it. Without knowing. Someone else must tell you." The disciple was confused and left. Later, this became a school that said, an arhat can still have mistakes. An arhat attains it without knowing. Someone else must tell them. That reasoning is wrong compared to the Buddhist scriptures, which clearly state that, in liberation, there arises the wisdom of knowing that one is liberated. We must hold on to this firmly. So here, Mahadeva was lying. He said something random to gain credibility. This caused many teachings that were contrary to the Buddhas to appear and led to a great misunderstanding between the Mahayana and Theravada schools. One time, a teacher who had just finished the basic course came to me and knelt down in formal attire to ask me. I said, "You can just talk normally." He said, "When I studied the Sutra of 42 sections, there was a sentence that said, 'Making an offering to a person who observes the 5 precepts is not as good as making an offering to a person who practices the 10 good deeds. Making an offering to a person who practices the 10 good deeds is not as good as making an offering to a stream enterer.'" You remember reading that, right? In there is a passage that says, "Making an offering to a Buddha is not as good as making an offering to a person with no mind, no practice, no attainment." He asked me, "Why? I don't understand." So I said, "Is a person with no mind, no practice, no attainment different from the Buddha? The Buddha also has no mind, no practice, no attainment. So why does the scripture divide them into 2? He still didn't understand. So I said, "That passage is not to teach you who to make an offering to. It's to teach practitioners with a goal. What goal do you aim for? If you only aim for the goal of practicing the 5 precepts, it's not as good as aiming for the goal of practicing the 10 good deeds. The 10 good deeds are not as good as aiming for the goal of becoming a stream enterer. Aiming for a stream enterer is not as good as a once-returner. A once-returner is not as good as a non-returner. A non-returner is not as good as an arhat. An arhat is not as good as a Buddha. But even so, it's not as good as a person who no longer has a goal. No practice, no attainment. Why? Because the name of the fruition that you aim for is still a name, a goal, and a secret deceit of the ego. Still exists. Because of our ego, we aim for a certain title. But a true practitioner no longer practices for themselves. They practice and work diligently to seek enlightenment for all beings, not for themselves anymore. So, for themselves, it is no mind, no practice, no attainment because there is no longer a goal for themselves. Even though they have attained it, they don't see it as glory. They only hope that sentient beings will be enlightened. As for themselves, they only hope to be a grain of dust flying in the gentle breeze. That passage is to warn practitioners. Here, he knows. Birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what was to be done has been done. There is no more returning to this life. Birth is destroyed means that rebirth has ceased. There is no more returning to this life. The holy life has been lived means the life without sensual desire. Only when you attain arhatship does sensual desire truly cease. What was to be done has been done means the practice has been completed. There is no more returning to this life again. This is the sentence that causes the great debate. Based on the early Nikaya scriptures, a person who attains arhatship will never return to this world. They leave this world forever. They attain liberation for themselves. This is why the Mahayana reasoning appeared, which is the conduct of a bodhisattva who enters the cycle of samsara to teach all beings. That ideal is considered more noble than a person who only seeks to practice for themselves and then enters nirvana and disappears. This reasoning caused a serious division in Buddhism between the two major attitudes, the southern and northern schools. One side, the southern school, understands it as no more returning to this life means it's over, and the other side, the northern school, denies it and says that's annihilation. It's not a noble ideal. The true noble ideal must be the bodhisattva ideal. They enter samsara and take on a body to teach all beings. Here we must explain this. We must learn to find a truth, a right thing, and if it is a right thing, it must bring unity. I always say that I just look for what is right. If it's right, then sometimes we are very open-minded and sometimes we are very meticulous, because the truth forces us to be like that. Now, let's find the truth that will resolve the great conflict between the two major schools in Buddhism. One side says nirvana is gone and no longer has value. The other side says, the Buddha taught this, I practice it correctly. If you say something else, you are a heretic. The reasoning of both sides is very conflicting. There are very strong criticisms of each other. They say that the Theravada school that attains arhatship and enters nirvana is annihilation. It doesn't help the Dharma to flourish. So we should take on a body and be a bodhisattva. The other side says, the Buddha taught like that, I practice correctly. If you say something else, you are a heretic. Both sides protect their own correctness. Here, let's understand a little. Does nirvana still have a self? No. What is no self? It's no self. What is no self? It's nirvana. Does nirvana still have a self? No. What is no self? No self. What is no self? It's nirvana. Nirvana is no self, right? Not having a self means becoming all. We remember that when we still have an ego, we see that we are separated. But if a person no longer has an ego, they become the whole universe, the whole of all beings. What does becoming mean? It's like us. For example, in the past, there was Venerable Anirudh. He attained arhatship and was in nirvana. Now, do you feel any connection with him? No, you don't. Why? Because you still have an ego, so you only know yourself. But as for him, as an arhat, he is now himself. He is each person. Here, he is the fan that is spinning. He is the ant that is crawling. He is the student sitting down. He is also the teacher who is lecturing. He is always beside us. He is like our friend, our father, our mother, our shadow, but we don't know it. But if for a moment we have a good intention, he immediately responds and blesses us. When we have a mind of reverence for the Buddha, we immediately receive the blessing and the response of the noble ones. It's not like they disappear. We must not think that nirvana is a disappearance. Nirvana is everything, and in that everything, there is a fullness of response and blessing for all beings who have a good mind. It's just that we lack that mind. But if we have a mind, the noble ones are always beside us, in our deepest heart, and they bless us. They don't disappear. As for a person who takes on a body and teaches face-to-face, they have the advantage of teaching in a specific way, but they cannot cover everyone. However, these two types of people support each other. When a noble person is born to directly teach, behind that person are all the noble ones who support them in secret. What does supporting in secret mean? I won't reveal this yet, as the time is not right. But you just need to know that a bodhisattva who appears in the world and the noble ones who stay in nirvana cooperate with each other and work in a very beautiful way. And so, we see that both sides work for the benefit of all beings, but in two different ways. One side secretly blesses all, while the other side takes on a body and faces people directly, but is limited to a specific number of people. Each side has its pros and cons. Therefore, the noble ones always cooperate to teach. When we understand this, we will see that so-called southern and northern schools, Theravada and Mahayana, are just a misunderstanding. Both are correct and must complement each other. The Dharma cannot be divided into two schools forever. We must understand this to bring unity and harmony to the Dharma. Here, O monks, a monk who is thus liberated is not seen by Devis in the worlds of Devis, Brahma Devis, or Prajapati Devis. I say, O monks, that even a Tathagata cannot see the tracks of a person who is thus attained. This statement is very unique and wonderful. What does this mean? What are our tracks? These tracks are not fingerprints. No, they are the arising thoughts of the mind. The arising thoughts of the mind are so calm, so absolute, that there is no small grain of dust left, so the Devis cannot see them, and the wisdom of the Buddha also cannot see this person. Because the Devis see us with their minds, not with their physical eyes. They don't need to see our physical form. For example, now we wear beautiful clothes, but in our mind we have a lot of mistakes. The Devis will see us and know immediately. They look down and they see that this person, even though they wear beautiful clothes, their mind is still looking at the neighbors from inside the temple. They see that when you listen to a lecture, you are thinking of nonsense. They see that when you take a test, you are peeking at the person next to you. They know immediately. As for a person who wears simple clothes, but their mind is pure, noble, altruistic, and virtuous, the Devis will see it and know immediately. We cannot hide from Devis. However, the very subtle movements sometimes the Devis cannot see, but the Buddha can. However, a person who has attained arhatship, even the Buddha cannot see their tracks. Their mind is pure to the extreme. So here, the Buddha also said immediately. He knew that people would misunderstand him. He said, "When I speak in this way, O monks, some ascetics and Brahmins misrepresent me in a way that is not true, foolish, and false, saying that the ascetic Gautama advocates the doctrine of annihilation, the destruction of sentient beings. But, O monks, I do not advocate like that. I am not like the ascetics and Brahmins who misrepresent me. I have always advocated and spoken only about suffering and the cessation of suffering." Here, the Buddha avoided answering the part where he said that even the Buddhas and Devis cannot see the tracks of a person who has attained the path. He knew someone would say that he advocates the doctrine of annihilation. He explained, but he didn't explain it fully. He only avoided it and said that the Tathagata only speaks about suffering and the cessation of suffering, not the doctrine of annihilation. So what about the saying, no tracks? So that it's not the doctrine of annihilation, the Buddha didn't explain. So here we must try to understand. When we say there are no tracks of a saint, it means that the place where there is nothing becomes everything. So the Buddha does not see the mind of that person, but that person has become one with all the Buddhas. This is the wondrous existence. For many centuries, the Buddha did not speak about it. Later, the Mahayana masters revealed this wondrous existence. We practice emptiness, not annihilation, but wondrous existence. So here we will talk about the response, the universal response. For example, do you think that nirvana belongs to each individual or to all? Individual or common? Common. You must be brave and determined here, because individual is the ego. Only the ego can create something individual. When the ego is gone, it must be common, right? In the past, when I was learning about the theory of Buddha nature, I asked a teacher, is Buddha nature the same for everyone, or is each person's Buddha nature their own? He said, they are the same, but each person has their own Buddha nature. I was suspicious for many years. I thought it was strange. Later, when I read the Agamas, I knew that the Buddha talked about 3 types of self-clinging. The first is clinging to the body as me. The second is clinging to thoughts as me. The third is clinging to a pure, universal mind as the true self, which is what many heretics believed. The Buddha said that is also not the true self. In that state, we see it as individual. We think, this mind is mine alone. That mind belongs to someone else. But when we reach the point where the ego and a single thought are gone, that place is the common ground, which means that all noble ones are one in that place. There are not 2 or 3. So even though they are not seen, they are one with each other. All are one. Let's use an example. There is a big bucket of water. We pour a cup of water into it. Can we find out which water belonged to the cup? No, we can't. Can we? It's all mixed up. This is an image that people often use. The small cup of water is like our ego, and the big bucket of water is like the universe. When we practice and our ego is gone, it's like we have merged with it. We are dissolved. There is no longer our individual self. This example is very good. It uses a physical image to illustrate a spiritual event. But when we reverse it, this physical image cannot be used anymore. If we scoop a cup of water out, can we scoop out the exact same water from the original cup? No, it's all mixed up. But for a noble one who enters samadhi, it's different. For example, an arhat, when they overcome the ego and they enter samadhi into the absolute nature, they become one with the Buddhas of the 10 directions. But when they come out of samadhi, they are still exactly the same as their original mind. It's like pouring a cup of water into a big bucket, and when you scoop it out, you get back the exact same water. Not a single drop is mixed. It's the common and the individual. They can get it back like that. It's not like the cup of water. That is why a physical image cannot be used to illustrate a spiritual event. And the place where there are no tracks is the place where the saints are one. A single thought is indeed no more, but it is replaced with a wondrous response that is everywhere in the universe. This is the nature of the true existence. From there, all supernatural powers, all wisdom, all love, and all compassion appear in abundance. The Buddha did not talk about this because he was afraid that people would imagine things. But today we must talk about it. As we said before, when our mind is calm, we can bow down to a cat or a dog. It means that when our mind is calm, what arises? Virtue arises, right? Humility is a virtue. The more we lose our ego, the more our compassion and virtue grow. It's not annihilation. It's not like, my mind is as calm as a tree and I'm separated from the world. No, it's not like that. Naturally, at that time, we bow down and we respect everyone. So, we lose this, but in reality, the wonderful things are growing a lot. Similarly, when there is no longer a single trace of the mind, this person's compassion becomes infinite. Cannot be described with words. We must have that reasoning to defend the Buddha. Here, O monks, if here, there is someone who insults and abuses the Tathagata, but, O monks, the Tathagata is not angry, dissatisfied, or enraged. On the other hand, if there are people who respectfully pay homage to and offer things to the Tathagata is not delighted or pleased in his mind. Why? Because the Tathagata thinks, this is what I have known clearly in the past. This is my responsibility to do. This passage is very good. Can you find the good part in this passage? We see that normally, to keep our mind from being agitated, we use the reasoning of emptiness. When people insult us, we say, the words of insult are like the wind, so that we don't get angry. When people praise us, we say, praise is also like the wind, and we don't mind. That's using reasoning to protect our mind. Here, the Buddha gives us a method which is using facts to protect our mind. And facts mean virtue and karma. These two are different. The Buddha did not use reasoning to keep his mind. He used virtue. He said, this is the truth that I have known clearly. And what is my responsibility? It is to wholeheartedly convey it to sentient beings for a lifetime. He sees it as his responsibility to sentient beings, not as glory. He was lucky to have seen the light, so his remaining responsibility is to make sure that they also attain this. This emphasizes responsibility, which is virtue. He does not use the reasoning of emptiness to keep his mind, but he uses virtue to keep his mind. This is what I have known clearly. This is my responsibility to do for sentient beings. These are very good words. And he also taught the monks the same thing. When you are praised or criticized, you should remain calm. Why? Because you think that this is what you have learned and attained. So, your remaining responsibility is to teach all beings wholeheartedly, to dedicate your life to help others have the truth and the light like you. You must remember this later when you grow up. Remember this. When you get involved in Buddhist work, you will face both bitter things and glory. You will face jealousy and slander of all kinds, and you will also be praised. When that happens, remember the Buddha's words today. We are lucky to have met the Dharma and good teachers, so we have attained virtue and wisdom. So, our remaining responsibility for the rest of our lives is to wholeheartedly dedicate ourselves in both favorable and unfavorable situations to help others also have the truth and the light. Remember what the Buddha taught in this discourse? Remember, right? Therefore, O monks, whatever is not yours, you should let it go. And letting it go will lead you to long-lasting happiness and peace. The Buddha says this over and over again. Just like a person who collects grass, sticks, branches, and leaves to burn, we don't want to collect them and take them away. Similarly, look at your body, mind, and all your possessions in this life, just like the leaves, branches, and sticks that are being burned by the fire of impermanence. Look at them calmly and don't hold on to them. Don't cling to them. Then you will have long-lasting happiness and peace. That's the Buddha's teaching. Thus, O monks, the Dharma that has been well explained by me, made clear and manifested, eliminates the old wrappings. The wrappings symbolize the fetters. O monks, because of this, many monks have become arhats. The defilements are destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What was to be done has been done. The burden has been laid down. The ideal has been attained. The fetters of existence have been broken, and they are liberated with right knowledge. The cycle of birth and death of this person cannot be pointed out. The fetters of existence are the 5 fetters. Existence means the power of karma that carries us into the cycle of samsara. So here, a person who attains arhatship puts an end to this existence. There is no more power of karma to carry them into birth and death. An arhat is the first level. The second is, when I have explained well, there are some monks who have destroyed the 5 lower fetters. This person will become a spontaneous born being and will attain nirvana there and will not return to this life. It means that when a person attains a non-returner, they destroy the 5 lower fetters and they will be reborn in the heavens. After a while, they will attain nirvana there and they will not have to be born in the human world again. We should listen to this to know the different levels. Then, when I have explained well, there are some who have destroyed the 3 fetters and have made lust, hatred, and delusion weak. Just lust and hatred is the first 3 fetters. Here we must pay attention. This is a principle that must be learned, and the path of a saint in Buddhism must be known thoroughly. When we are a monk, if someone asks us about this, we must not be wrong in our answer. Making lust and hatred weak means what? A person who has destroyed the 3 lower fetters is a stream enter. Here we must be careful. This is a principle of the teachings that must be learned, and the path of a saint in Buddhism must be known thoroughly. With a stream enter, lust and hatred are weakened, but not completely destroyed, and they become a once-returner. If they completely destroy lust and hatred, they become a non-returner. But a person whose lust and hatred are weakened is already a wonderful person. We will see that person is very virtuous. It's only the subtle aspects of lust and hatred that remain. But if a person completely destroys lust and hatred, they are a saint. We will see them and we will immediately want to prostrate to them. Truly, because they are wonderful. A person who no longer has lust and hatred, when we are near them, Their compassion spreads. They no longer live for themselves. They no longer cling to anything. When you find someone like that, please let me know. I will come and prostrate to them. Then, when I have explained well, there are some who have destroyed the three fetters, and they become stream enters. They will not fall into the evil destinations and are destined for enlightenment. Here, the Agamas and the Nikayas are different. The fruition of a stream enterer in the Agamas says that they will be reborn 7 more times in the human world and they will become an arhat. As for the Nikayas, there is no time limit. It's just known for sure that this person will not fall into the 3 evil paths in the cycle of samsara, and one day they will attain arhatship, but there is no time limit. As for the Agamas, there is a limit of 7 lives. This is a difference between the 2 systems that we must know to distinguish them. And it seems that the Nikayas are more correct, because there have been some people who attained a stream enterer in the past and they have been reborn many times, but their Buddhist nature is never lost. They always live altruistically and work for the benefit of all beings. Because of that, this person has great merit. Sometimes they are born as kings or rulers. They may have a beautiful and intelligent appearance. Like Mintrai, they may create karma because of pride, since pride is not gone until arhatship. But whatever karma they create, they only have to be reborn as a human to pay for it. They never have to be reborn as an animal. They are always reborn as a human to pay for it, even if it's miserable because this person has attained a stream enterer. Now, even if they are reborn up and down, they still continue to live altruistically and work for the Dharma. When they have enough affinity, they will attain arhatship, and there is no limit of 7 lives like in the Agamas. The 2 sides are different, and it seems that the Nikayas are more correct. Then, when they hear the Dharma, there are some who are Dharma-Followers and some are faith-followers. These people are destined for enlightenment, but we don't know how many lives it will take. What is a Dharma-Follower? It is a person who follows the teachings to practice. What is a faith-follower? It is a person who follows their belief and feelings to practice. So here we learn that there are 2 types of people, 2 types of temperaments who come to the Dharma. One person comes to the Dharma with reason and logic. The other person comes to the Dharma with feelings and belief. These are the 2 types of people that you must know. So that later, when you teach, when you meet a person who values reason, you must have sharp logic to teach them. But when you meet a person who is simple, easy to believe, emotional, and lovable, you just need to talk to them with kindness, and they might take refuge and become a Buddhist. Therefore, a future abbot, besides being good at the teachings, must also know the art of poetry and music. In the future, the activities of the Dharma must be richer and more diverse to be able to teach both types of people. Both types of people, one who follows reason and one who follows feelings. For him, it means that when we practice, all our merits must be based on the foundation of our reverence for the Buddha. The greater our reverence for the Buddha, the more merit we have and the easier it is to practice. Today we can say this freely, but in the past the Buddha could not say that, right? He couldn't say, "You must revere me and prostrate to me 1,000 times every day to attain the path quickly." But in this discourse he said a little bit, "A person who only has faith and love for me will also be reborn in the heavens." The Buddha said a short sentence, but we must exploit this and teach a whole lecture on it. So, the origin of this discourse is from a monk who had a wrong thought, and the Buddha reprimanded him. And at the same time, the Buddha taught a lot of great and important things in this discourse on the simile of the snake. Today we have studied it. Next time, the students will do a presentation on the assigned topic. Now, if there are any questions, please ask. We still have a few minutes. What do you forget quickly? I forget the song. This song is a bit difficult to sing because it's a mix of folk and modern music. I can sing it, but there are 2 conditions. First, don't criticize. Second, don't go outside and tell people about it. I owe autumn a poem of falling leaves and mist. I owe someone a hole. Life I can't pay back, a smile with dimples. I owe my homeland a bunch of sweet starfruit. I owe life a moment of bitterness. I owe the rain a moment of getting wet. I owe the village sky a flying kite. I owe my mother's lullaby beside the old hammock. I owe my friends a final get-together at the street corner. I owe my old school the first letters I wrote. A whole life is forever engraved. Deep. Do you want me to sing it again? Do you? I owe autumn a poem of falling leaves and mist. I owe someone a whole life I can't pay back. A smile with dimples. I owe my homeland a bunch of sweet starfruit. I owe life a moment of bitterness. I owe the rain a moment of getting wet. I owe the village sky a flying kite. I owe my mother's lullaby beside the old hammock. I owe my friends a final get-together at the street corner. I owe my old school the first letters I wrote. A whole life is forever engraved deep. No one sings back. We must stop and dedicate the merit. I dedicate the merit of today's study to all disciples and sentient beings so that they can all attain the path of the Buddha. May my mind be as free as clouds and wind, and may I know how to love all beings. May love fill every place, boundless and deep. May we be one heart, one blood, one pain. Love the poor and the worried. Love those who don't know where to find suffering. Love the wild animals, the birds that fly everywhere, the fish that swim in the deep rivers. Love those in a drunken stupor so the hand gives up the hand. Love those in hell. From a long time ago they have been deluded, so they have created sinful karma. May this heart love all sentient beings, whether they are enemies or relatives. The world is full of sorrow. The human heart is full of jealousy and hatred. Seeing people prostrating before the Buddha's altar, I vow that everyone will know how to build a mind of loving kindness. From now until 1,000 years later, may my heart be a small spring to love people. May my lips give to the world thousands of tender words and 1,000 kind words. May my warm hands be a fragrance to build a life as beautiful as heaven. Life is a common dream. When hatred ends, love remains. May my mind be as free as clouds and wind, and may I know how to love all beings. May love fill every place, boundless and deep. May we be one heart, one blood, one pain. Love the poor and the worried. Love those who don't know where to find suffering. Love the wild animals, the birds that fly everywhere, the fish that swim in the deep rivers. Love those in a drunken stupor so the hand gives up the hand. Love those in hell. From a long time ago they have been deluded, so they have created sinful karma. May this heart love all sentient beings, whether they are enemies or relatives. The world is full of sorrow. The human heart is full of jealousy and hatred. Seeing people prostrating before the Buddha's altar, I vow that everyone will know how to build a mind of loving kindness. From now until 1,000 years later, may my heart be a small spring to love people. May my lips give to the world thousands of tender words and 1,000 kind words. May my warm hands be a fragrance to build a life as beautiful as heaven. Life is a common dream. When hatred ends, love remains. O Mother, I sing this song like a bird that finds its flock, like a river that overflows with love. A warm and vast ocean in my heart, a small shell on the shore. O Mother, how I remember your lullaby from that day. The sun had not yet set, filled with love. O lullaby of life that made me sleep soundly. In my dreams, I remember that day when you were so worried when I was sick in bed. You were pale with sad eyes far away. Wonderful mother's heart that has nurtured me and given me life. Knowing how to love everyone. Among the distant and vast stars, my heart is warm and full of love and life. Now I have grown up. Now you have grown old. But the love from before is still there. It has not faded away. My heart still has the blood from the past. It is the milk from you today. It is the life source today. It is the grace. Oh, now that I have grown up, I carry your blood. I carry your heart to love and cherish. And I carry your eyes like bright stars to shine on life. I will go to all paths, wherever there is suffering, and bring the song of peace to each other, along with the suffering. I will ask to be a stream that flows through the vast deserts and brings the water of grace to nurture hope for people. Oh, Mother, I pray sincerely that the Buddhas will bless you with eternal life. One day when you are 100 years old, you will go to the Buddha's realm and be at peace. and happy.